For perfectionistic INFJs, guilt can be a monster, yet this terrible emotion can be tamed. Guilt, when it happens to a personality like the INFJ, the rarest of the 16 Myers-Briggs types, it can spiral out of control and harm relationships, career success, and self-esteem. It's a small-minded feeling for many, but remorse may be a monster for INFJs. Regardless of our personality types, we all deal with guilt since we are all only human. The INFJ is not the only one who can be guilty. However, as an INFJ myself, I've grown to see how significant a role this vile feeling plays in both my life and the lives of other INFJs. Why do INFJs deal with guilt so much? We are perfectionists, for starters, and guilt, in my opinion, goes hand in hand with that. Additionally, we INFJs have a propensity to criticize ourselves and occasionally harm our own welfare. And we are frequently the first to analyze and condemn our own behavior. The profoundly sensitive and empathetic intellect of the INFJ is vulnerable to guilt, which can be excruciating. Guilt has the potential to spiral into a destructive cycle of self-harm. INFJ, you don't have to let guilt rule your thoughts and affect how you feel mentally. You are not owned by it. Here are 4 actions you may do to help you succeed as an INFJ and escape guilt's suffocating grip. 4 techniques for INFJs to combat guilt. 1. Accept responsibility for what it is. A majority of the time, guilt is a bad feeling. Contrary to popular belief, conscience refers to a person's moral sense of right and wrong. On the other hand, guilt seeks to make you act by hurting you. It fills you with an unpleasant, forced sense of worthlessness, which makes you feel miserable. It's also not the way to move forward. Guilt may appear as follows. I could have accomplished more by getting up earlier, so I regret not doing so. I ought to have spent those 30 minutes preparing dinner rather than watching Netflix. I should be further ahead in my career by now. Why didn't I work overtime? I probably didn't receive that promotion because I didn't work hard enough. I suppose I could have given up that Sunday. I should spend more time with my family as well. I should include my kids in more activities. So on and so forth. There is never enough of anything we INFJs do. To the point when the guilt spins us in circles and we feel like failures, we put pressure on ourselves to perform better than everyone and everything. Because I was there, I can say that. How then do you overcome guilt? Prior to spiraling, the first step is to acknowledge the guilt loop. Realize that this is guilt, and guilt likes to damage you rather than beating yourself up when new possibilities and avenues continue to present themselves. It's attempting to depress you. Its purpose is to undermine you rather than bolster you and support a successful end. Is guilt ever justified? You might be wondering at this point. Which gets me to the following action. Think about whether the guilt is appropriate. Despite the fact that you didn't spend much time with the kids during the week, did you stay home when your wife brought them out this weekend? It's understandable why you would feel awful. To put things in perspective, is this guilt still valid? Does it aim to lead you along a worthwhile path? If it is, take it as a motivating signal. In that instance, you are being served by your conscience. If it's not, your INFJ thinking is being taken over by guilt and is working against you. You don't want it to negatively impact your mental health in that situation. 2. Identify the source of the guilt. If you compare yourself to others, do you feel bad about it? This is where my guilt comes from most of the time. Of course, I won't be where they are if I compare my week of blogging to someone who has been doing it for years. Why then should I feel bad? I must accept my own journey. INFJs, track down the cause of your guilt. Is it relevant to anybody else? In situations like these, 99% of the time, feeling guilty is completely useless. It hurts to compare. It's guilt, and guilt is built on mind tricks and false comparisons. If the guilt you're experiencing has anything to do with another person's growth, you need to get rid of it before it starts to negatively affect your mental health. You need the time and space to concentrate on your own personal development. We INFJs have a propensity to take on other people's feelings as our own and connect our own stream of consciousness to theirs. But this is wrong since we only endanger ourselves. When it comes to guilt, we must identify the cause and ask, is this entirely about me? If it isn't, then accept it and work on letting go. 3. Schedule some time for self-care. INFJ, be kind to yourself. When everything feels oppressive and you're caught in guilt's rope, give yourself permission to engage in a relaxing hobby or technique. We INFJs have strong emotions, a propensity for becoming lost in our own thoughts, and a susceptibility to being overstimulated by both our internal and exterior environments. Stop and allow yourself to feel wonderful when you're feeling depleted by guilt's rampage and blaming yourself for failure. This might resemble a straightforward yoga session, a few breathing techniques, meditation, laying in the sunshine while taking in music. I enjoy listening to a thought-provoking podcast while lying in bed, especially Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop, which is now my fave. It aids in removing any unpleasant negative ideas. Take care of yourself. Give yourself the time and space to liberate yourself if guilt is hitting you. Pay attention to your body and mind. Take care of your mental health as if it were a physical ailment if guilt is robbing you of joy. 4. Talk to someone about your worries. Guilt likes to prey on INFJs because we can be brutal self-critics, which is one of the reasons it does. Guilt will send us spinning with negative thought after negative thought when we're inside our own brains, which we are about 100% of the time. We sink downward when remorse whispers in our ears, "You should have done it." The INFJ whimpers in response, loathing themselves. "Yes, I should have." The truth is that an INFJ who feels trapped by guilt might benefit from hearing from someone else how absurdly pointless these guilt feelings are. We occasionally require the input of an outside voice. To confirm that we are not the failures we believe we are, we need a second viewpoint. That what guilt is doing to us is not what we deserve. Having a conversation with someone can be quite therapeutic. Therefore, talk to someone you can trust about your concerns. When you tell them what you are feeling guilty about, they are likely to provide insight and help. They will assist you in determining if the feeling is guilt or your conscience speaking if they are a sincere friend who has your best interests in mind. Don't underestimate guilt, and don't listen to anyone who tells you it's not a big deal. It can seem like a very real pounding to sensitive introverts like the INFJ, but it's not need to. Guilt has no place in your life, INFJ. It's out of place. Guilt will attempt to creep into those lovely places where you work hard, have aspirations and objectives, and go through highly thought-out processes, but you don't have to. Recognize it, confront it, be kind to yourself, then cast it aside. You shouldn't be made to feel guilty.